Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
6:06 on this radio program, O'Connor and Company on WMAL. We hope you're listening on 105.9 FM. We hope you're listening on our app. We hope you're listening on a live stream anywhere you can find us. We hope you're listening on the podcast. If you are, this is weird. It's like we're time traveling right now because you're hearing us after we've said what we're saying. That's the fun thing about podcasts.
Do you think it's being, zoomed, put into space as well? Maybe the aliens are listening.
We're very big with the aliens, actually. We're actually,
I know, me too.
We're
I
number
find it
2
so
in Uranus. Wait a second. That sounded wrong. All right, let's move on quickly. I'm Larry O'Connor. She's Mercedes Schlapp. Coming up at 7:05, Ian Pryor from Fight for Schools. 7:35, John Myers running for Congress. And then at 8:05, the Attorney General of the Western version of Virginia, Patrick Morrisey, talking about how he's trying to make Kamala Harris president of the United States. That's a weird strategy. All right, we'll get to that coming up. Anyway, yesterday, absolute horrific scene in Kansas City, Missouri, as the Chiefs were having their Super Bowl parade, and a person with a gun started randomly firing on the scene. 20 people were shot. One person killed. That person, by the way, a local disc jockey for a radio station, was killed. And some of the injured people were children. So far, everybody else who was shot is going to emerge, it appears, without life-threatening injuries. Let me give you a little bit of the local report here, focusing on one of the heroes in this scenario, and amazing viral videos that are out there that shows 2 Kansas City Chiefs fans. There were police in the vicinity, obviously, because it's a huge parade and a controlled environment and stuff, but they weren't right there where the shooting started. And, of course, people are fleeing and they're running and they're screaming, but 2 guys chased this man down and tackled him right there on the grass, and then sat on him and held him.
Saw the video.
I counted.
Really?
It took about, because they're like sitting on top of him and holding him down, and I'm like, okay, where are the cops? Okay, where are the cops?
Yeah.
Okay,
very brave.
And for me, it seemed like it took forever. It only took about 35, 40 seconds for the cops to get there.
Right.
But, a lot can happen in 40 seconds, and here are these 2 heroes who had detained this madman, this evil, evil person. Take a listen.
One guy was hollering, saying, stop him, or catch him, tackle him, whatever. And he's just bailing, running. And out of nowhere, I heard that guy hollering, so I'm just like, okay, well, I'm right here. And I didn't even think about it. It just a reaction. I didn't hesitate. It was just do it. So I went to go tackle him, and another gentleman did the same thing. And as I'm tackling him, I see his weapon either fall out of his hand or out of his sleeve, because he was wearing a long jacket, or like a Carhartt. So when I seen that hit the ground, I'm like, oh, we got to take this guy down. And so, like I said, I did, and another good Samaritan did, and we held him down. And it seemed like forever, but it probably wasn't. It was like 30 seconds holding him down, and me and the other gentleman are hollering at ongoers, where's the cops?
Yeah.
Get the cops over here. Get the cops over here. We got him.
Yeah, he sure did get him. What a hero this guy is. Instead of running away, he ran toward the fire, tackled the guy, neutralized him. It could have been even more horrific. Great moment. We don't have a whole lot of information about this suspect, about the person who, it appears, murdered this woman and also shot 20 other people. Hopefully we'll get more information about that person. But I do know this. That guy right there, he should be he should get a pair of season tickets for at least the next season for the Kansas City Chiefs, if not more.
And during the shooting, players were still on the stage of the victory rally when the shooting took place. But obviously this is where the question comes up about what about gun safety laws, which of course your vice president, Kamala Harris, jumped right in saying it's time to pass these gun safety laws after this Kansas City shooting.
Yeah, I've got an idea for a gun safety law. It's a really good one. Don't take your gun and kill innocent people with it. Just use it for self-defense, target practice, or hunting.
And carry,
that's already the law.
And for those law-abiding citizens, carry your gun because you'll never know when you're going to need it. I mean, that's really the reality of it. I mean, you're seeing what's happening in Washington, D.C. with the carjackings. I know we've talked about this time and time again, Larry, but I don't know about you. I don't feel safe going into Washington, D.C.
Oh, Lord, no.
There's major concerns, of people getting shot and killed as they're taking their cars. You have now the Venezuelan gang members have taken over an area down in near the Capitol building. They're selling drugs. They're stealing phones. It's constant.
See,
the crime is outrageous, and these are the big issues that we're dealing with.
You're doing the natural, human, logical thing here, which is you hear about a story like this and you immediately think of the individuals, the people, and their evil mentality, their lack of morals, lack of principles, lack of humanity, lack of empathy for a fellow human being. And what's wrong with those people, instead of immediately trying to make political hay and saying, oh, well, we need gun laws and I'm going to raise money to defeat my political opponent on this issue. I think I've mentioned him before. Brendan Smith is he's a senior, a firstie over at the U.S. Naval Academy. Yesterday was the 100-day mark. There's 100 days until the graduation where all of this year's class of 2024 become brand new officers of the Navy or the Marines. He's a huge Kansas City Chiefs fan. He basically lives at our house now because the firsties don't have to stay at Bancroft Hall on campus the whole time. They get a lot of freedom.
Okay.
So he was at my house yesterday. I came home from work in the middle of the afternoon, around 2:30, 3 o'clock, right as the story was breaking, and he was taking a nap on my sofa. And he woke up, and I said, "Did you see what happened in Kansas City?" And he said, "Yeah, I just saw it when I woke up." And his first thought to me was not, why do we have so many guns? His thought wasn't, why can't the government do something about the guns? His first thought wasn't, the only solution here is to take guns. He looked at me and he goes, what kind of person does something like that?
Exactly.
Why are people like that out there? What is this person thinking? What is wrong with a person who does that? Because that's what most normal people think. Kamala Harris and Democrats are not normal people because they immediately look at this and they think, oh, well, the gun issue is a good one for me. I raise money and I get votes on it. So I'm now going to look at this and exploit it for my own political purposes. It's despicable.
Well, let's remember, it is about enforcing the gun laws that are already in the books. It's about ensuring that criminals don't get guns. It's about making sure that you're able to identify these people that are going to commit these types of crimes. And that there's so many of these missing parts. But no, for the Democrats, it's about taking your guns away.
That is correct.
Is clearly what they've always been focused on. It's always the issue is the gun, not the person. Yeah. And that is, I think, where they're just completely wrong. Because
you nailed the whole illogic of what they're thinking here, Mercedes, because the mentality from them is, we need to have more laws against people owning guns. That'll solve the problem, even though the people who are willing to break the law against murder will certainly be willing to break the law against having a gun. Mm-hmm. It means that law-abiding people won't have a gun. And did I mention how long it took? This is at a place where there's police everywhere. Yeah. Police were everywhere for this parade and this celebration. These guys tackled him. You just heard it from his mouth. We held him. He was fighting us. It seemed like forever. It was probably only 30 seconds, which is what it was, between 30 and 40 seconds. But think about the havoc that this person could have caused if he were able to continue firing for 30 or 40 seconds, what seems like forever. And this is at a place where police are right there. The Democrats would have it so that you cannot defend yourself. Only the police are law-abiding people. They're the ones who will have the guns. And you just wait for them. They'll come and get you. Well, I'm sorry. Yeah. That's not reality here. The only way, and I hesitate to say this, but Democrats on the left, they won't say it out loud, so I'll say it out loud. The only way to address this issue from a gun ownership perspective is to shred the Second Amendment, completely revoke it, and confiscate every gun in America, barge into people's homes and steal their guns from them. That literally is the only way to do it, because anything short of that, criminals will break the law, criminals will get their guns, and criminals will be the only ones that have them. That's it.
Yeah. That's it. I mean, and that's the plan. I mean, the plan is that the crime, their obsession with guns is going to be what they focused on, and they really can't do anything. And you know what else has happened? You've had the district attorney up in New York City, destroying the NRA.
Hold it real fast. You're right. New York City NRA. I want to get to that in a quick second and another story here real fast. But first, it's 6:16, so we got to get to Jamie Whitten. Sorry, I went a little long there with my with my gun confiscation thoughts.
Oh, boy.
This morning on the Chris Plant Show, don't be bothered by the fact that Obama's IRS, FBI, and CIA tampered in 3 presidential elections. 9 a.m. on WMAL.
Yeah, just to button this up here, Mercedes, and again, I hesitate to even float it out there, but the fact is Democrats will not really publicly attempt to kill the Second Amendment and confiscate guns. They'll do it secretly. They sort of send you a message, Obama, Hillary, whenever you ask them, what can be done, they say, well, we should look at what Australia did. That's what Australia did. Australia confiscated guns. Australia made it illegal for private ownership of weapons. That's what they want. But in the meantime, you're right. They're trying to work nefariously behind the scenes, not with legislation, but through the court system. And you raised New York and the NRA.
Yeah, let me tell you, there was a story this week from the New York Times saying the decline of the NRA, their influence is waning because the NRA gets sued and they go after them. Like you saw Letitia James, her goal has been take down the NRA, take down President Trump. That's her political campaign slogan, basically. Mm-hmm. And so they successfully were able to remove the president of NRA, Wayne LaPierre, and really have caused havoc. They've had to spend millions and millions of dollars in these lawsuits. It's called lawfare, and they go after every single effective conservative group. It's what they do. And I have to say, Republicans are just asleep at the wheel. They don't understand that these are the tactics of the left. You get an influential group, you take them down, and that's what their attempt has been with the NRA.
And it's exactly what our strategy should be. See, we should sue and try to take down Human Rights Campaign because they're harming little children by forcing agendas and policies that would have them chemically alter their bodies before they hit puberty. Human Rights Campaign calls himself...
We need like a George Soros, to fund the millions, but he's too busy. Like, who's he hanging out with?
Well, his son is now hanging out with Huma Abedin.
Soros.
Right, he's going where Anthony Weiner once was. Anyway, it's 6:20 here. And by the way, let's turn here to this story because we're in the midst of now needing a negotiation between the House and the Senate, and really the House and the White House, because Speaker Johnson has said this whole Ukraine funding bill is dead on arrival. They're not taking it up. They're just going to focus on border security. They'd like to, spend money securing the United States international border instead of making the priority the Ukraine international border. And the White House, when they're not run by mashed potato for brains, incompetent, dementia-addled Joe Biden, they're run by 12-year-olds. Because in the midst of this moment where they need to negotiate with the Speaker of the House, the social media account for the White House put out a Valentine's greeting for Speaker Johnson. It's red. It's got the hearts behind it. It's got a picture of Mike Johnson, and it says this: "Roses are red, violets are blue. The border deal was crushed because of you." Who are these children?
They're so stupid.
Remember how the grown-ups are in charge, Mercedes?
You know what it is. It's like the Gen Zers in charge of the social media account. Like, oh my gosh, it's so cool. Like, we should do this.
But are there no grown-ups that have to sign off on it first? I mean, when John Kirby sees this, does he that's so. Radical, kids. Great job.
I know. That's so clever. Oh my, that's going to win us a couple more votes.
I think we figured out where Dylan Mulvaney has turned up. I think Dylan Mulvaney is running things for the White House.
Maybe he's secretly running the social media account. No, because he's so about himself. There's no way.
True.
He could never.
That's true. That would
He'd
be too selfless.
There going, I had Valentine's Day dinner with Joe Biden. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
He'll post it everywhere.
So this is how intent the White House is to drag this out and try to make this a political issue, and actually, instead of solving a problem, they refuse to sit down face-to-face with Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, and to discuss this. They won't actually take a meeting about it. They won't actually even discuss their differences. Again, grown-ups are in charge, right? Well, this is not how grown-ups operate. They reject the request to even meet. And their response, Karine Jean-Pierre, says, what's there to discuss?
What is there to discuss?
We've said what we want, and now you're
first.
It's right there in the Constitution. I think it's Article 1. The House of Representatives will do whatever the White House demands they do. Isn't that what it says in the Constitution?
Yes. Well, Jean-Pierre, Karine, or as Chris Plant says, cringe. Jean-Pierre.
Yes.
So literally she says about the Johnson meeting, So he's negotiating with himself, and he's killing bills on his own.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's such a toxic environment. And the mere fact is that Biden has no desire to work with the House Republicans. And I think that talk to any American, and they'll tell you, pick the border, the southern border, secure that border before we do anything in sending billions of dollars to Ukraine. I'm sorry. It's pretty basic.
By the way, that's not the only thing Karine Jean-Pierre said. She also said this.
House Republicans are still at it right now, siding with Donald Trump, Vladimir Putin, and Tehran against our defense.
There you go. Republicans are siding with Vladimir Putin.
Now,
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
Good Thursday morning. It's another day that starts with a T, okay? Could be Tuesday, could be Thursday, coin flip. Okay, let's go with Thursday. It's Thursday morning, and a good one to you at 6:37 here on O'Connor and Company. I've only had 7 cups of coffee, Mercedes Schlapp. Give me a break,
Really?
okay?
Really. I think that's a little excessive.
No, I see you judging me. You got your judgy face. She's always judging. Coming up later this morning at 7:05, we're going to speak with Ian Pryor, Fight for Schools, about tonight's Loudoun County School Board meeting. But again, they'll be taking up issues that could be in any school board across this region, across the country. 7:35, John Myers is running for Congress. And then at 8:05, the Attorney General of West Virginia on his plan to trigger the 25th Amendment, get Biden out of the Oval Office. That's all coming up. As I said, that's Mercedes Schlapp. I'm Larry O'Connor. And yesterday was, well, let's say a fascinating afternoon as a story developed. I was listening to Vince Colonnese, of course, as everybody does during their afternoon drive in Washington. Try to unpack this. It all started with a tweet. A tweet, you know, as all major intriguing national security threats happen, Mercedes, it all begins with a tweet.
Yeah, right?
From the House Select Committee on Intelligence. Said, today the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence has made available to all members of Congress information concerning a serious national security threat. I am requesting that President Biden declassify all information relating to this threat so that Congress, the administration, and our allies can openly discuss the actions necessary to respond to this threat. Wow. I mean, and that was it. Incredibly cryptic. Incredibly, like,
Very
what the
cryptic.
heck is going on here, right?
Let's just cause panic, like right now.
So then Jake Sullivan is giving his press conference at the White House. He's asked about it.
Shortly before you came out, Congressman Mike Turner issued a statement saying that President Biden should declassify intelligence related to a, quote, serious national security threat. What can you say about the threat and what the administration plans to do?
So first, I reached out earlier this week to the Gang of Eight to offer myself up for a personal briefing to the Gang of Eight. And in fact, we scheduled a briefing for the 4 House members of the Gang of Eight tomorrow. That's been on the books. So I am a bit surprised that Congressman Turner came out publicly today in advance of a meeting on the books for me to go sit with him alongside our intelligence and defense professionals tomorrow. That's his choice to do that. All I can tell you is that I'm focused on going to see him, sit with him, as well as the other House members of the Gang of Eight tomorrow. And I'm not in a position to say anything further from this podium at this time.
So the chairman of the Intel Committee says this is a matter of national security threat, and I need this declassified so that everyone in Congress and the administration can openly speak about it. Jake Sullivan says, we'll talk tomorrow. And by the way, when he says
I do
Gang
want to
of Eight,
say though, if
yeah.
I would have been the Congressman Mike Turner, I mean, I probably would have not done this in the public sphere. I think it would have been more important to check in with the Biden administration, move forward, because you move forward and ask the questions and be like, we need to discuss how we're going to declassify this or not, because you don't want to cause unnecessary panic. And I think it's why you saw Speaker Mike Johnson basically trying to calm people down and not create panic, because it became a news story in a matter of seconds.
Yeah. Oh, the second I
You've
saw
got
it.
to be careful. There's a balance between providing information, saying we got to declassify this content, but you got to make sure that it's done in a way where you don't cause panic.
So you're right. Speaker Johnson put out a very reasonable, adult, measured statement that should, put the American people at ease. Jake Sullivan, the National Security Advisor, was given the opportunity to do the same thing, and he did this.
Is there anything you can say to characterize what this threat is or what country it involves? I mean, should the public be alarmed at this point since he has said this publicly?
I'm not in a position to say anything further today.
Should the public
he has to be.
No, but hold on. Should the public be alarmed? And he says, yeah, I can't say anything. What?
No. But here's the deal. I think. Look, first of all, I think he was off guard on the question. Number one. Number two, he has to be very careful what he says, because when you're dealing with classified information, you have to be careful. You can't just be liberally giving out the information. You got to, there has to be a way to do this. So I do think he didn't anticipate the question necessarily.
That's fine, Mercedes, but he could say there's nothing to be alarmed about.
We don't know if there's something to be alarmed about.
Well,
we don't.
Okay,
Larry.
hold on. You just praised Speaker Johnson for his statement. Here's what he said.
I do have a statement, and I'm going to be very precise, and I'm not going to take questions. But last month, I sent a letter to the White House requesting a meeting with the president to discuss a serious national security issue that is classified. In response to that letter, a meeting is now scheduled tomorrow on this matter here at the Capitol with the Gang of Four and with the President's National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan. I will press the administration to take appropriate action, and everybody can be comforted by that. I saw Chairman Turner's statement on the issue, and I want to assure the American people there is no need for public alarm.
There. What's so wrong about that? Speaker Johnson says there's something going on. We're talking to the White House. They won't declassify it, so I can't say anything about it. But there's no reason for the public to be alarmed. Jake Sullivan, National Security Advisor, is there a reason for the American public to be alarmed? And he says, yeah, there's nothing I can tell you.
No, I agree with you on that.
He could have at least said, no one should be alarmed. We got this.
No one should be alarmed. Yes, you're right. Unless he knows more information than Speaker Johnson and he's not sharing it.
All right, so now what is this really all about? Well, we think we know because, as you heard from Chairman Turner's statement, he briefed all of Congress. And when you brief all of Congress, it leaks. And so we think we might know what this is all about, and we'll tell you what the speculation is and what we believe it is in just a moment. First, though, it is 6:43. So continuing to try to unpack this and read between the lines, clearly Speaker Johnson and the chairman of the House Intel Committee believes that whatever this issue is of national security importance, it can be declassified. They're not allowed to declassify it. They're calling on the administration to declassify it so it can be openly discussed. And even in committee and debate and everything in the House, and the White House is dragging their feet. So it seems to me that this move to go public by the Intel Committee, by the chairman, was to force the issue on the administration. Stop with the classification. Declassify this so we can discuss it. And why wouldn't the White House want to declassify it? Well, probably because we learn about so many things that are, the overclassification of stuff. Rick Grinnell, by the way, who was the acting DNI under President Trump, this is a big thing with him. So many things are classified in this town, too much so, actually. Probably this is classified because it makes Biden look bad, is my guess, that something happened while they were supposed to be on top of it, and now they're trying to clean up the mess. That's my hunch.
You're probably right, Larry. I think they might be trying to clean up the mess. I think that there's a way to do this without causing panic. I know that Congressman Turner probably was trying his best to have this conversation with the national security team. They were taking too long, but you also have to be careful how you use your language, especially when it comes to national security concerns. I'm not saying
I agree.
The national security team should have probably prioritized this, gotten in to see the congressional members sooner rather than later, especially if you're dealing with something regarding Russia.
The meeting is happening today, but it appears, sources suggest, that this is about a plan for Russia to employ nuclear weapons in space. Now, let's just be clear. These weapons are not, we believe, intended to use to drop on our planet. And they've got plenty of weapons to execute that plan. No, these are specifically, it appears, to be used against satellites, against American and other allied satellites. They could be used to knock out our communications, some of our defense capabilities. Anybody who knows anything about the modern military right now knows that we utilize satellites for pretty much everything right now in the military. And one way to disable us or make things a lot harder for us would be on a first strike basis to disable all of that. It would also disable so much of our communications and the ways that we, are alerted to things. So this could be a major deal. And that, it appears to be, based on sources, what they're talking about.
Yeah, and they've talked about one source that it is very concerning, very sensitive. And the reality is, if you're going to see Russia move forward and put a nuclear weapon or, up in space, you're entering into a whole different realm of threats.
Yeah.
Right? Threats that
God.
we are not prepared for. And we know this, and now they're saying it would not be to drop a weapon on Earth, but to use on satellites, which I think is all very bizarre. And it's why we need, you need to figure out where Russia is going.
Right, and how we can deter it. By the way, this is one of the reasons why Donald Trump, even though he faced a lot of ridicule and criticism, why Donald Trump moved forward with a decades-long plan to institute formally a Space Force. What the Space Force does was taken up by multiple parts of our military, some in the Army, some in the Navy, a lot of it in the Air Force. He designated the Space Force, and people made fun of him. Let's not forget Jen Psaki, during the first couple of months of the Biden administration, was asked about the Space Force and whether it would be retained under Joe Biden, and she mocked it. She made fun of it that day.
Soon. May I ask whether the president has made a decision on keeping the scope of Space Force?
Wow, Space Force. It's the plane of today. It is an interesting question. I am happy to check with our Space Force point of contact. I'm not sure who that is. I will find out and see.
The snark that she had in her voice, the mocking of, Space Force, the plane. Wow. She actually had to apologize the next day.
I don't even know who's in charge of Space Force,
Exactly.
Because... Well, yeah, I mean...
And thank God
we
have a Space Force. They're the ones, they're going to be the tip of the spear on this thing if Russia goes ahead with their plan.
Yeah, and, I think it brings up... They're raising very, very concerning questions. I think that if Russia is moving in this direction, we are just we're behind.
Yeah.
We're behind. And we're seeing this not only in Russia, but even in China, where you have China with these, missiles and weapons that are superior to what we're seeing in the United States. Very problematic. And what is our military leadership involved in? Not our great generals, but some of these political people. They are honing in on misgendering your colleague.
That's right. No, we need grown-ups in charge of our defense right now. And how about the grown-up who actually instituted the Space Force?